Everyone. How many of you are 2 3 years experience? Can you raise your hands? Okay. And 3 to 6, and rest are above 6, right? Okay. So, how many of you have done the integrations in Salesforce with other system or from other system? They are pushing data to the Salesforce. Have Yeah. So, what all things will you notice while doing the integrations? The considerations that you follow. Any suggestions that you want to say?
So I am a Wilco developer.
Okay.
So do integration. So I have done integration with AWS, S3, and databases. So yeah, I mean you have to take care of the batch size. So if you're doing a bulk insert, so you have to take care of the batch size what you're inserting. You have to take care of the time it takes and inserting the data, and then if you're querying the data from Salesforce or integrating to other system, you have to see how much data you have to query and the time consideration. And if it's real time as well, you have to select like what kind of like 200 shots at a time or how many records at a time you have to insert all those things. So the governance and all those things.
Sure. Thank you. So what he explained was one of the scenario where he used the middleware, MuleSoft. So that is a one type of integration patterns that we are going to see as well. There are several other patterns. So he was talking about migrating the legacy data into the Salesforce. So there is some schedules, there was bulk data approach and all. So he was talking about one pattern. You also raised one. किस इधर से किसने रेज किया? You. So can you
Hey, hi everyone. So my name is Keshav and I have done the integration for the external systems including my middleware. So like while integrating with the other systems, like there are certain points like first you need to aware of the endpoint URL. You need to whitelist the URL in the Salesforce.
data steps? What steps नहीं? What is the type of integration you did?
So integration was like account
Okay.
it is the external system was sending data to our Salesforce and we were sending to the other system and getting the response and recording.
So you were pushing the data. Okay. Thank you. So resuming back to the Salesforce integration patterns. So I will be covering the basics of Salesforce integration patterns. There might be some virtual events also going on where I will try to deep dive into the coding practices as well. That may be scheduled sometime later. But here we will be covering only high level aspects of the integration patterns. So this is me. So I am currently working as a technical lead in Wilco Source. So working as a technical lead. So I have around 10 years of experience into Salesforce ecosystem. I am having application architect certified. If you want to connect me over the LinkedIn, there is a QR code. You can connect me. Okay. So this is the agenda for today's session. So why do we need integrations? And then what are the factors that are going to affect the integrations? What are the integration patterns and approach and selection guide? So these all topics we will be going to cover. So can anyone explain what is integration and why do we need? Please.
Integration need is when we are working two different software, we can say, or two different departments in an organization. So we have to integrate them. So we can
we don't need a guy to communicate between those departments or those software. So these are the basic requirements for the integration, and many factors are there. We can explain.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah.
So my name is Lakshit. So what generally happens is that we don't have an independent system that has all the data and all the functionalities to support everything. So if we want to share the data with another system or share the functionalities with another system, so that's why we need to integrate for getting accessing the data or the functionalities. So we can. So that's why we need integration.
That's correct. So we cannot have all the data into reside into the Salesforce. So there might be some external source where we have some data, like SAP. We have data like Zoho or like Oracle. We might have some data that are residing, and Salesforce does not serve only the all the processes. So Salesforce is a CRM application. There might be a billing application. There might be a payment thing. There might be a ERP system where the business is trying to incorporate several other business processes. So we have to see the data into one collective UI or whatever it is, means into the org. So that's why we need a integration, so that we can automate the processes. We can bring in data or send the data from other systems. That is why there is a need of integrations. So what are the factors that are going to affect the integration pattern? So first of all, we have the maintain same transactions. So whether the response that we are getting, do we need to perform any operations on that? So if we send, we request something for another system, and their data is, we are retrieving the data. So either some insert, update, or any manipulation that we need to perform over that data. That is one of the factor. So second factor is synchronous or asynchronous. Whether we need the data in the real time or in near real time. Message size. So we have a limitation for the message as well. So everyone is aware of the limitations, governor limits we have into the Salesforce. So there is a limitations of the message size as well. So whether the message size is small or big, depending upon that factor also, we can choose the integration patterns. So next one is the guaranteed delivery. So whether when we are sending the data, so whether the system has received or not, we need the acknowledgement. Or if the data is not received properly, so do we need to have the retry mechanism as well or not? So if the data is got corrupted or data is not received, something happened in between, the other system is down, suppose that, and the data cannot, so we need to retry the data to send to the other system or not. That is also one of the factors. Next one is the contract first integration. So can anyone aware of this contract first? Okay. So contract first is that Salesforce has some standards to send the data or receive the data. Whether the other system is following that same standard or not. If they are not following, then the integration might not be possible. We have to go by the alternate route. If that is a possibility, then we can integrate. So this is one of the pattern. And second is the declarative preferred. So always go, Salesforce always recommends the declarative approach where point and click is there. We should be avoiding the coding based integrations in it if it is possible. Any questions so far? Okay, moving ahead. So these are the integration patterns we have in Salesforce: request reply, fire and forget, batch data synchronization, remote call-in, UI update based on the data changes, and data virtualization. We are going to cover first request and reply. So what is request and reply? We sometimes call as request and response as well. Can anyone? Yeah, you have already answered.
The request is whatever we send to the different system, and response is whatever we get from that.
That's a basic. Thank you. Yeah. So request is like in whatever the data we are going to send or whatever we are requesting from the third party system, we are going to receive those responses from the third party system as well. So it is basically a synchronous process, means we need the data to be synced in the real time kind of a thing. So that data is received. So whenever we need to perform any operations on the data that is getting retrieved from the system, we generally prefer the request and reply. So here it is saying that allowing data to send out to the external system to perform some operation and send back to Salesforce. So whether it is insert, delete or update anything we need to perform into the Salesforce, we go with the request and reply. There are some ways in which we can do the request and reply. Like external services, there is a point and click based kind of a integration we have, which we can integrate. There is second LWC or Visual Force page. So suppose that some data is getting reflected over the UI and we want to send the data to the system, and again that updated data we want to show over the page, that also we can think of. Trigger is the code based. As I said earlier, trigger and batch apex are the code based, so we should be avoiding this unless necessary. So we should be going with the external services. We can integrate with the lightning flows as well, and we can use the LWC if the UI component is involved. This is the basic design for the request and reply. Here what happens is, the user is going to send the means the browser, whether it is lightning component or anything, this is going to send out to the controller, which is going to make the call out to the remote system, and the response is getting retrieved, which will perform the operations on the data. So this is the kind of request, because we are going to send the request and we are receiving the response, and the purpose of response to perform the request response whatever the data is getting, and we can so this is the basic need for the request and reply. Any questions?
Guys, ये focus ये जो आज
Yeah, please.
because of selection लोगों के लिए है जो लोग developer हैं, developer 4-5 साल के ऐसा सीख पा रहे हैं. If you are going to have this integration pattern, आपको जरूरत पड़ेगी.
From lightning flow also we can do the integration, we can make the call outs. Flows, have you worked on the flows? Yeah. So if you want to go over the hands-on, that we will cover in the upcoming sessions, but we are going with the basics. So in the flow also we can make the call outs. So that is what we are referring to the flows. So point and click, always Salesforce prefers the standard approach. We should not go by the coding approach first. Any other questions? Okay. Next one is fire and forget. So आपने किसी को पैसे दिए, वापस में नहीं आया, उसने भूल गया. Similar way in the system is like you have sent out the data but you are not receiving any response. So in this case, basically we want to sync the data, but we don't wait for the external system to send the response, and these are basically asynchronous approach that we follow in fire and forget. So the data sync will be a near real time, not a real time, but near to real time. And we will be using the majority of the data events we will be capturing over the platform events. Anyone aware of the platform events? So in Salesforce, there is a platform events as well. So where there is a pub sub model, publisher subscriber. Have you heard of any? So basically that pattern will be used in the fire and forget. So whatever the data changes happened into the Salesforce, we send out to the events, and events will send out to the system. But we will not wait for the system to acknowledge and respond back. So these are the use cases, these are the ways in which we can implement the fire and forget. So first one is process driven platform events. So it is like again from the flow we can make the callouts. So flow will be calling the platform events, and from the platform events we will be making the callouts. Second is the customization driven platform events, where we will be going through the custom code for the platform events. And third one is the Apex based callouts. So process driven is like that is the standard approach, point and click again. So Salesforce always recommends, if there is any possibility, we should go by the first approach. And next is the second, if that is suboptimal, and this is Apex based callouts, we should be avoiding. If possible, we should avoid. Yeah.
In real time, how platform event will work in the integration? That I not know.
In real time, it is near real time, not real time.
So, but
It is asynchronous
how we
method.
are able to use it while taking the data from the third parties?
Taking
That way.
means sending the data back to the Salesforce you are talking about. So in the platform, do you understand the platform events architecture? There is one publisher and there is one subscriber. So subscriber is subscribed to some kind of events, and publisher is going to publish the events. Whenever the subscriber receives those events, the events gets fired. So whenever it should not wait. Earlier there was a mechanism of Polar where we used to make the callouts to the third party system and receive the data continuously. So we are not going to use that. That is already kind of a outdated approach, you can say. So we have a event bus. So subscriber and publisher. So whenever we receive the data, the platform events get triggered, and there are some other streaming APIs as well. So in which if we want to refresh those events into the UI or something, we can use that to refresh those pages. Any other questions? Real life example would be sending a message to customers, like WhatsApp message or SMS message that has been this transaction has been done. So you can say that, or some purchase order. We need not to wait for that SMS to complete, because that is also one kind of event. So we send to the one kind of a bus that may be a third party system, and we send. They will broadcast those messages to the third party, whatever. Yeah. That's what I said. We cannot guarantee. If guaranteed delivery is you are looking for, then this is not the integration pattern that you should follow. Any other questions? Okay. This is kind of architecture for request and forget. So basically we will be using the flows. So here is the platform event bus, which is used as here is the subscriber and listener events that I was trying to explain. So platform events of bus is subscribed to. So the remote system has a publisher and subscriber event. So whenever the event is passed to the subscriber listener, so subscriber will pass to the queue and it will perform the actions on the application, but it will not receive. So this is kind of a platform event driven architecture that we have for the request and forget. That will be going to more detail. Comment is kind of a JavaScript kind of a functionality. That will be very technical here. Yeah.
अच्छा कितने लोग कनेक्ट कर पा रहे हैं इंटीग्रेशन पैटर्न से, मतलब यूजफुल लग रहा है? कितने लोगों ने इंटीग्रेशन करा है? तो कैसे आपका जो टीम लीड होगा या जो आर्किटेक्ट होगा या प्रोजेक्ट में कोई बंदा होगा वहाँ पे, कैसे बताते हैं आपको क्या करना है? या आप जाके जिस कोड लिख देते हैं, एक वेब सर्विस बनाया इनबाउंड आउटबाउंड वाला जो भी चाहिए और कर दिया, कैसे करता है? अच्छा फ्लो में कितने लोगों ने इंटीग्रेशन करा हुआ है? फ्लो में करा ही नहीं है। तो आपके जो भी कस्टमर होगा उनके पास यही होता है या उनके पास कोई रिकमेंडेड सॉल्यूशन आर्किटेक्ट होता है? तो जो अभी आपका नॉर्मल कोडिंग यहाँ पे हम लोग इफेक्ट में करते हैं, वी आर रिकमेंडिंग कि आप फ्लो में यू नो द फ्लो फीचर्स और नॉट। तो फ्लो में ऐसा क्या है जो नहीं कर सकते और यहाँ पे आना पड़ेगा हमें इफेक्ट पे इंटीग्रेशन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से। पहले अगर आपने स्टार्ट नहीं किया है फिर भी हाई चांस के आपको बोला जाएगा आने वाले 2-3 साल में, क्योंकि अगेन मैं एमएसएमई एसएमई की बात नहीं करूंगा, पर एंटरप्राइज लेवल पे Salesforce is pushing really hard to get everyone on the low code. ठीक है, when I say low code, that's the low. So even I know the project जहाँ पे आपको कोड लिखने के लिए अप्रूवल लेना पड़ता है, they won't allow you to write a single line of code. I do know कि बहुत सारे सिनेरियोज होते हैं यहाँ पे ट्रिगर लिखना पड़ेगा, आपको टूल से नहीं काम करेगा, but still you should be aware of those scenarios अगर आपको आगे ग्रो करना है तो। क्योंकि अगर कोडिंग कर रहे हो तो आपको 5 साल चाहिए, कितनी होगा फ्लो में एन नंबर ऑफ थिंग्स हैव बीन चेंज्ड। और फ्लो में हमें सारा यहाँ पे क्या है, इन्होंने इतना सारा अच्छा यूट्यूब पे दिया हुआ है पूरा पूरा एंड टू एंड बेसिक से लेके एडवांस तक ऐसा प्रीति टेक कर पे। दिस इज फ्री कोर्स राइट? अभी फ्लो वाला तो आपका फ्री है ना यूट्यूब पे, यू कैन गो एंड स्टार्ट लर्निंग अगर आपने नहीं किया है। इंटीग्रेशन अगेन गाइस, फ्लो में देयर इज अ I think बहुत सारे scenarios already covered हैं where you do not need to write a code from the very basic. आप लोग जाइए प्लीज पढ़ो, एटलीस्ट आपको अपने रिक्वेस्ट रिप्लाई वाला यूज केस बना के देखो, फ्लो में फॉरवर्ड वाला बना के देखो, जो सिंपल यूज केस है। अच्छा पोस्टमैन में कितने लोगों ने काम किया है? पोस्टमैन क्या टेस्टिंग करने के लिए क्या कैसे करते हो? हाँ, तो सेम यूज केस जो आप पोस्टमैन में करते हो एक बार फ्लो में ट्राई करके देखना प्लीज। अभी सेशन का मीनिंगफुल है, नहीं तो कोई फायदा नहीं है ना। एटलीस्ट सौरभ जो पढ़ा रहा है, यू विल गेट लॉट्स ऑफ अदर ब्लॉग्स आल्सो, इंटरनेट पे बहुत सारी चीजें मिल जाएंगी आपको, तभी आपको उसको एक्चुअली में बेनिफिट मिलेगा। आप जाके भूल जाओगे कोई फायदा नहीं होगा, ठीक है? एंड प्लीज आस्क क्वेश्चन गाइस, ठीक है? आस्क क्वेश्चन अगर आपको नहीं समझ में आ रहा है कि यार ये कोई नंबर ऑफ टाइम।
Thank you. So, any questions till here? Okay. Moving to the next. So, we have batch data synchronization. So, earlier He was saying that he was doing the MuleSoft kind of integration. So batch data synchronization, as we know that this is a batch, means large volume of data will be need to sync from the one system to another. Uh, Suppose that data is residing into the another system like SAP or Oracle, and they want to migrate the data into the Salesforce. How can we proceed? Because there might be a volume of data which will be very huge. So they have to make those data into chunks, because at a time, if we are going to migrate all the data into the Salesforce, a lot of resources might be consumed, and the things will not work properly. So in that scenario, we come with the batch data synchronization, where that we divide the data into the fragments into chunks, and we push the data into the Salesforce, or we can use the Salesforce as well to move the data from to another system. Any questions? So these are the scenarios in which we can use the batch data synchronization. First is a change data capture. So change data capture is like whenever we there is any data event take place into the Salesforce, data updates or a data insert takes place. We want to send this data to the third party system. So that is one of the scenario, change data capture. Then we have the ETL tool, like he was discussing about the MuleSoft, the ETL tool. That is a middleware where we can have Informatica, MuleSoft, or other ETL tools as well. Then we have the manual remote calls, where we write the Apex code again, so which is not preferred. And since manual remote calls is like writing a code, and every time the system gets changed or some upgradations happen, we have to maintain those codes as well. So every time we need to do manual interventions in that. So first one is the change data capture, that we will be pushing through the platform events, and we will there will be again subscribers that we see. So the data will be pushed into chunks to the another system. ETL is basically like suppose there is a schema that we have in a Salesforce, and that schema needs to be transformed into the other type of a database. So those data, whatever we are sending to the third party system, that data needs to be extracted from the Salesforce, that needs to be transformed into the various other. Suppose that account record is fragmented into different other objects that we are having into the Salesforce, that transform we extract from the Salesforce, transform the data, and then we put the data into the third party system. This is the purpose of the ETL tool. And manual, as everyone know. Any questions? Sorry. So we have to do over the data before dumping into the another system. Obviously, where you are going to push the data, so objects should be there.
Let's say if there is a new software, we have multiple integration. Let's say SAP is there, Oracle is there. So if they have a different SAP response structure, so how new software is going to be management? If you transfer the data from let's say Salesforce to SAP or Oracle, obviously they will orchestrate. How it functions in the background. कैसे works?
You are talking more about the MuleSoft architecture. So, anyways, so at the what we perform, that we take out the data. In Excel also, you might have some raw data that you are getting in. You want to push into the Salesforce. You take out those, you filter out those data which is relevant to accounts or contacts, and then you want to map those data as well. So these same architecture, whatever you are doing manually on the Excel, that can be performed at the ETL tool as well, the middleware. So it can perform those actions in behalf of you. Change data is again going with the platform events. Whenever we have a change, So it will push the changes that has happened to the data to the subscriber. Let's suppose that webhooks, anyone has implemented about the webhooks, you might be aware of. So bata sakta webhooks.
Where we can say, like, we can take example of payment gateway. When sometimes we face our payment is failed or we have not received the response, but when we reopen the app, we get the status is success. So it is happened through the web because when the payment system or we can say payment gateway receive the payment, they send the
Pani dena,
update to the
pani.
system which call the payment page. So in the backend, it is a system, a server to server call which update the data behind. It is not which source to customer, but it is server to server data exchange.
Thank you. So I hope that answered or still continue. Okay, any more questions? Moving to the next part. So this is basically the change data capture scenario that we have covered. There is one more design that I am not covering right now. So whenever the data is changed, so it will publish an event, and there will be again a subscriber, which we are calling as listener. So that will capture those events, and that will transform the data and write into the local repository. Whether it is with the ETL tool or whether it is with the third party system, whatever it is, we are going to send the data and it is going to capture here. Any questions? Next one is remote calling. Remote calling is like whenever we want to send the data to the Salesforce. Whatever the scenarios we have seen right now was sending the data outside of the Salesforce. Now the Salesforce is receiving the data from the third party system. So that is called remote calling. So error could be multiple scenarios, whether it is format, whatever the data we are sending, that format is not proper, or some validation rule is built, or some any other business logic is built where we don't have the data. So there might be some error logging mechanism as the ETL or at the receiver side as well, where we are going to identify the errors and we are going to fix the data. Might be duplicates also will be coming. So maybe we have to merge the records. So there might be a number of scenarios.
Let's suppose we have published around 100 events. My question is, let's suppose we have published around 100 events and we have WordPress subscription for around 50 events. So let's suppose we got here really setting this so we will be resolving that particular events setting, or like we will be getting the rest events.
Sorry, could you repeat? I did not get that.
Like 50 सेकंड में मेरा एरर है
हाँ.
और लेकिन सब्सक्राइब नहीं हुआ 50 सेकंड बाद तो जो मेरे बाकी की इवेंट्स हैं सब्सक्राइब हो गई है, पहले वो रिजॉल्व होगा और उसके बाद सब्सक्राइब.
So it all depends how you are going to configure the system. So whether you are going to go sequentially or whether you can proceed further and you can report the error logging, whatever you want, because it all depends on the how you are customizing the system. So, currently this remote change data capture we are sending from Salesforce to the third party. Now if the failure occurs, so failure you want to stop the process entirely, or you want to proceed. It's upon the configuration that you are going to build it. Yeah, that those all things. See, in the Salesforce also, whenever we receive, we perform those operations as well. Sometimes we need sequential data, so we have to perform the business logic accordingly. Sometimes we don't depend on those data. So it all depends how the business wants, how the integration you want to perform. There is also retry mechanism as well. So if it fails, we have to retry or not. So though there are different kind of a mechanism that we can implement. Any other questions? So for remote call-in, we have SOAP and REST API. So for have anyone worked on the REST resource URL, REST resource classes? Yeah. So there are some standard endpoints as well given by the Salesforce as well. So in order to access the data inside the Salesforce, you need to have those authentications in place. So without authentication, you cannot do the data operation into the Salesforce. So that is first one is the SOAP and REST API standard that Salesforce is exposing the endpoints. In that, you can create, insert, delete the records, whatever the endpoints is giving. You can perform the bulk data API as well. So in the bulk data API, if I correctly recall, there are 50,000 records per limit. That is also one thing. You can the Salesforce can subscribe to the platform events as well, where you are sending us events, and it is a subscriber. We can use the enterprise or partner visual as well. So if you are using the SOAP kind of a thing, so you can use that as well. Then is the custom API, where you are writing the REST resource URL. This is also, since this is a code base, so it will be not recommended unless it is necessary. We can expose the URL where the third party system can send the data to the Apex, and we perform all those operations on that data as well. Any questions?
एक क्वेश्चन है जब हम एफएक्स कॉल करते हैं एफएक्स एक्चुअली हमने अलाउ कर दिया है और जो कोई थर्ड पार्टी सिस्टम है उस एफएक्स के थ्रू डेटा को सेल्सफोर्स में इंसर्ट करता है ओके एट द सेम टाइम सेल्सफोर्स उस ऑब्जेक्ट को भी अपडेट कर रहा है इसमें क्या होता है कभी-कभी एक मैसेज आता है एरर ब्लॉक और टेबल ब्लॉक वाला हिसाब उसको कैसे अवॉइड कर सकते हैं
So that is a row lock error is basically when we try to insert or update the same data into the at the same instance. So if you are retrieving a data, there is a keyword for update. If you use, then you can avoid that. And there are some other mechanism as well. You can do that, but this is the one of the approach that we can follow. Easiest approach for update. If you are trying to retrieve the record, use the for update in the key SOQL, and it will avoid those. Any other questions? This is kind of architecture for remote call-in, where the remote system is making the call-outs to the Salesforce. Salesforce is listener now. Earlier Salesforce was publisher, now Salesforce is a listener, and whenever the event gets in, it will notify to the events and it will perform the operations. मैं देख रहा हूँ. So from the back, everyone is following.
कोई क्वेश्चन है आपका पीछे से? People are following or not? आप क्वेश्चन मुझे थोड़ा भेज दो.
So can anyone explain what are the types of integration patterns that we have seen so far?
request and reply. Request and reply.
There is still missing. There is still missing. Change data capture is not a pattern.
आप लोग फॉर्मल इंटीग्रेशन पैटर्न बताया है
जो मैंने कवर किए हैं वो बता दो.
फॉर्मल कवर
ETL क्या था? ETL is not a pattern.
और भी गाइस कितने लोग एग्री कर रहे हैं? ये लोग बोल रहे हैं खाली 4 ही बताए इंटरेस्ट मिल रहा है 5 पॉकेट एक के लिए कुछ पता है कि और 4 ही बताए ना
4.
आइडियल प्रोसेस 4 चीजें बताए
ETL किस डिजाइन पैटर्न का है?
ये लोग बोल रहे हैं 4 ही बताए
ETL is one of the tool. It is not a pattern.
ध्यान दो यार और भी बताए डाटा बोल रहे हैं ये पहले वाला क्वेश्चन पूछ रहे हैं ठीक है गाइस आप लोग समझ आ रहा है आप लोगों को
मुझे लगता है काफी लोगों के सर के ऊपर से जा रहा है. So they are saying that ETL pattern. I have not discussed the ETL pattern. ETL is a tool, and the scenario was batch data synchronization. Any other questions? Yeah. Sorry? We are not covering data security here. Data security is separate part. We are not covering those. Salesforce has. Sorry, could you? So first of all, we are authenticating. So after authenticating, only you can send the data into the Salesforce. Without that, you cannot. So there is restrictions, always a guardrails provided by the Salesforce itself, which maintains those security and balances into the Salesforce system. So if you are concerned about the data, so without authentication, you cannot proceed with that. So one part is there, and whatever the if you are more secure, you can put the encryption and decryption as well in your logic if you want. Since we are not covering the data security here, so I'm not going to cover those in details. It's upon to you how you are going to build the logic. So according to him, that if any transaction fails, whether we are going to roll back or we are going to proceed. So it all depends on the business logic. Earlier also one question came in similarly. So it all depends how you want to proceed, whether the data is dependent or the data is sequentially we want to retrieve. These all are the business logic, how you want to do those things. Any other questions? So next one is UI update on data changes. Real life scenario, I can say that you are calling an agent. Agent sends you a payment link and you are doing your payment. When you do a payment, the agent says that okay, we have received the payment. This is a scenario everyone might have faced. So what is happening? So whenever you made a payment, that is a third party system that updates those data and sends back to the Salesforce, where the UI gets refreshed. We need not to reload the page again. The UI automatically gets refreshed whenever there is a change in the data at the back. So this is the scenario where we are talking about. So you made a payment got success, and then the UI refreshed. without that success, we are not refreshing the page. Yeah. So these are the options that we can use. First one is the streaming API. So we can use the platform events which will subscribe and which will push the data. Listen to the EMP API, that is a streaming API that we can use in the Lightning components. Then we have the Lightning data service as well. Then we have the external services like the middleware ETL tool as well, which we can. And next is the polling. Polling, I said earlier that polling we are not using anymore because that is a very resource it consumes a lot of resources. So we will not prefer that. And so in these all the events, so you can see that most of them are subscribed to one of the event. Whenever the data is getting changed, it captures and the streaming API refreshes those sections into the Lightning component or a Visual Force page itself. We need not to do the manual refresh. Only that section is getting refreshed. You can use the EMP API that you need to import into the LWC component as well to refresh those pages. Or you can use refresh apex as well, where you can on the change of data you can refresh the classes or pages as well. So there are multiple ways you can do while coding. Any question? Yeah.
So, sir, let's suppose we have a user. Like in Salesforce, we have to update something, we have to use the user. So, can you tell about integration user?
Integration user, I don't get that.
Like, let's suppose there's an external system, and from there is a data coming over Salesforce. So, we need to update our Salesforce object for that, and we have to store that data. So, for storing data, we need a user. License of user for updating the data in Salesforce. So can you tell more about that?
Normally, what we follow is we create a separating API only user. We don't give those permissions to the internal user or admin user. That is only for the API related. So that API only user you can create. Apart from that, if you need some object permissions, you can assign those manually. So depending upon what those permissions needed for the API users, you can give those permissions. But we create a separate user out of we don't give a internal org permissions to navigate into the Salesforce. Whatever the polling achieves, we can do with the streaming API. It was an older mechanism where we used to do the polling where we tend to poke every time 10 seconds or 50 seconds to fetch the data whether the data is retrieved or not. So it is not used currently.
Why we are not using SOAP API? We are using only REST API.
We can use. It's up to you. It's up to you.
Where you are written that only using effects or REST calls. Why we are not using the
Polling we are not going to use. Polling is a kind of it is said that less efficient and high latency. So we are never using polling right now.
we use SOAP API na, as
Yes.
XML.
So XML format in the previous slide I have shared. Na? So in that we have enterprise and partner visual. So you can consume that and you can use that SOAP. So it's up to you what you want, whether you want to use REST, whether you want to SOAP.
Okay, both can.
Yeah, both can be used. Sorry. Any other questions? This is kind of a diagram for remote UI update on remote changes. So here the page is subscriber. It is not pushing any event. So it is subscribed to one streaming API, that EMP API that I was talking about. So whenever the changes it happens, it will notify the event bus and it will reflect those changes to the UI page. This is a simple architecture. Any questions? There are no questions coming from the back. या तो सब समझ में आ रहा है या तो कुछ नहीं समझ में आ रहा. Okay, moving to the next. Next we have data virtualization. Now there is a scenario where we want to see the data, but we don't want to the data to be stored again into the Salesforce. Salesforce, you know that data storage is very costly. So why to consume those data storage into the Salesforce itself? So if we have a third-party system like SAP or any others which Salesforce provides, means proper formatting, there is a connector like OData, OData 4. So if they support, then we can use the data virtualization for that third-party system as well. In this, the data resides into the external system itself. We can view, we can create the records, we can update the records, we can pull out the reports, but we are not going to store anything into the Salesforce. The data will reside into the external system. Whenever we want, we can refresh those. Right? बैटरी भी चार्ज नहीं है क्या? So here the scenario is that data resides into the external system. We are not storing any data into the Salesforce. So we can create the list views, we can create the records, we can update, we can delete the records, but data is not going to get into the Salesforce. So this is one of the scenario. And has anyone used of Salesforce Connect or external objects into the Salesforce? Yeah. Could you please explain something?
OData connectivity.
Sorry?
OData connectivity.
Yes, yes. क्या बात?
OData connectivity है ना?
हाँ, वो डेटा से है. OData 2, OData 4, there are different connectors. Anyone worked on Salesforce Connect? So there is an external object concept in the Salesforce where you can create an external object with some the third-party system which supports the OData connectivity here, and we can integrate and we can there might be different objects that are getting published. We can subscribe to the specific objects here, and we can show the data. We can even create relationships. We can create reports out of that. So this is the data, and the second is the request and reply, which is again code based, which Salesforce does not recommend unless it is necessary. Okay. So this is kind of architecture for external connect. So whenever you are going to fetch the data, So data will be fetched in the real time. So if we will not be receiving the data from the external system, some old data. It will be a recent data, and we can see those recent data into the Salesforce. Any questions? Yeah. So this is a connector type. If you see the O data is basically used to connect these systems. The Salesforce internally handles those. We need not to make those integrations or how this pattern is following. Salesforce handles on it in its own. So whenever we are going to go to the external object, Salesforce will hit the external system. So there is integration layer and service layer. I'm not going to explain that. So integration and service layer, and then they will get the data from the third party, and it will show reflect into the Salesforce itself. So there will be a virtual only for referencing. It is not storing into the Salesforce, but it will behave like an internal Salesforce object itself. It will look and feel. You can create the layouts, you can create the custom tabs, you can create the reports out of it.
To understand how we are using process earlier. Process layer mapping. अगर as a individual आप समझे end customer के corresponding है developer के तो process layer कैसे use हो रही है इसमें?
Process is like that. मैंने एक सिनारियो बताया था, पेमेंट थर्ड पार्टी सिस्टम पे हो रहा है, आपका पेज खुला हुआ है, तो प्रोसेस इज गोइंग एट दैट part. So it is not linked with the Salesforce. Process is going at some other system, and then whenever those succeeds, the data is sent to the Salesforce. So process is different. Maybe the third party system may be outside of the Salesforce.
आपको event driven architecture पता है? Event driven architecture क्या होता है? इवेंट एक जगह हो रही है बट आप कैश यहाँ पे कर रहे हो, जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल क्रिक पर जगह खोला होगा या फिर और क्या बताएं फोन पे जैसे आप पेमेंट करते हो बहुत सारे नोटिफिकेशन आ जाता है आपके पास, वो इवेंट ड्रिवन होता है. तो ये इवेंट ड्रिवन के कॉरस्पॉन्डिंग है, राइट? क्योंकि यहाँ से आपने सब्सक्राइब टॉपिक करा हुआ, टॉपिक
अगेन process is done. When those process is done, the standard controller will notify to the API. So publisher will notify to the subscriber.
फॉर एग्जांपल आपका कुछ पेमेंट हो रहा है जो सेल्सफोर्स में है ही नहीं, थर्ड पार्टी पे है. अब आपको सेल्सफोर्स में कैसे पता लगेगा? पेमेंट आपको हो रहा है थर्ड पार्टी पे, आपने भी पेमेंट किया बट दे आर यूजिंग दिस टॉपिक इवेंट ड्रिवन आर्किटेक्चर पे चलता है, तो वो आपको नोटिफाई करेगा स्ट्रीमिंग एपीआई के थ्रू और उसको पता लग जाएगा. आपने कभी बनाया कोई इवेंट के थ्रू कुछ एक जगह पब्लिश कराओ?
एक और सिनारियो मैं बताता हूँ. जैसे आपका EMIs है, रेगुलर है, वहाँ पे पेज भी नहीं है, आपका ऑटोमेटिक डेबिट हो रहा है, ठीक है, बट वो रिफ्लेक्ट आपके अकाउंट पे कर रहा है, तो दैट इज गोइंग ऑफ, ये इससे रिलेटेड, बट टू एक्सप्लेन, so that is going asynchronously, that you are going at a time dependent. So payment is done at separate time, but you are viewing this data into the Salesforce. So data capture कहीं और हो रहा है, but it is sent to the Salesforce via these events.
So WhatsApp में जैसे वेब और होता है, इवेंट ड्रिवन होता है, राइट? आप यहाँ पे डालते हो वहाँ पे पता लगता है, तो दैट इज ऑल इवेंट ड्रिवन. तो यहाँ पे प्रोसेस आपका स्टार्ट इनिशिएशन फॉर सेल्सफोर्स नहीं है, राइट?
नहीं
कहीं और दूसरा चीज है, पर सेल्सफोर्स में आपको उसको कैप्चर करना है. तो आप जब पुश टॉपिक नोटिफिकेशन पढ़ोगे या फिर आपने न्यूज़ ऑफ पे काम किया होगा, बोल दो पुश टॉपिक स्टैंडर्ड होता है, तो आपको थोड़ा पता लगेगा. बहुत सारी चीजें सौरभ ने बहुत सारा कवर करा है इंटीग्रेशन पैटर्न में, बट एक्चुअली ये पार्ट नहीं है इंटीग्रेशन पैटर्न का. दरअसल आपको सारी चीजें पता लग जाएंगी तब आप समझ पाओगे थोड़ा बहुत.
Salesforce डॉक्यूमेंटेशन से उठाया,
ये पैटर्न बहुत बड़ा है ना, पैटर्न
वो हब स्पोक और एंटरप्राइज अलग, वो अलग है.
आर्किटेक्चर और पैटर्न आप उसके अंदर बहुत सारी चीजें जो ऑलरेडी बेसिक्स है, किसी को ये भी पता इंटीग्रेशन क्या होगा तो पैटर्न को भी पता है.
ये व्हाट्सएप वाले तो ये होता है कि
क्या?
फायर और फॉरगेट हो जाता है व्हाट्सएप पे, एक बार मैसेज भेजे फिर भूल गए, चाहे कोई भी मैसेज नहीं है तो ऐसे काम करती है. तो मैसेज
व्हाट्सएप में डबल टिक भी है,
वो रिसीव होने का होता है.
रेड भी है, एक्नॉलेजमेंट भी है, डोंट पता. Any questions still here?
This model does this model hold bulk data synchronization also.
Sorry?
The bulk data भी handle कर सकता है ये कि
उससे नॉमिनल डेटा कोई इंटीग्रेट कर रहा है मतलब
You are talking about the data virtualization. Data virtualization is retrieving the data from the external system. It is not getting stored into the Salesforce. It is just for your reference. एक पेज है वहां पे डेटा आपको दिख रहा है. It is not getting stored into the Salesforce. So it is real time. Whenever you go to that object, the data is retrieved in the real time from the Salesforce and it is shown in the UI.
वॉइस डेटा भी हम शो करते हैं
Sorry.
वॉइस डेटा भी हम शो करते हैं
So list view में जितना आप scroll करते जाओ नीचे. So it is all handled by the Salesforce. So now the pattern approach. There are three approaches. Yeah, yeah. भाई बैटरी नहीं है क्या? नहीं बैटरी नहीं है क्या? बार बार डिस्चार्ज हो रही है. दूसरी बैटरी नहीं है यार. हर 2 मिनट पे बैटरी डिस्चार्ज हो जाती है. क्या है? चार्ज हो नहीं रही है और बैटरी नहीं है क्या? Okay. So we are covering. Am I audible at the back? Okay. So there are three types of There are three types of pattern approach we have. We have one is okay. One we have is data integration. Another is have process integration, and third is data virtual integration. So this data integration is like flowing of data from one system to another. So whether it is Salesforce flowing from Salesforce to another, or it is flowing into the Salesforce. So in this you have to handle the data management as well, like whether the data duplication is not taking place, data retry mechanisms and all those things we have to follow. This is normally the easiest kind of integration, and most of us are following this kind of pattern, data integration. Next is the process integration, where we are integrating with the processes. So like that some billing or process is there, some order payment process is there. So these all are linked with this integrated in such a way where one process completes, that will transcends to another process, and which will come when all the processes complete, then it will reflect into the Salesforce. Payment also we are talking about, there are different processes involved into those. We are not directly flowing the data from one place to another. These are the processes that we have. And then we have the virtual. Virtual is like just a view and search and modify the data stored outside the system, not into the Salesforce. This is simple, I guess. So अभी तक जितना भी कवर किया उसका हम लोग देख लेते हैं, when to use what kind of a pattern and when to use other patterns. So we have a pattern selection guide as well. So if we are integrating from Salesforce to another system, what kind of integration pattern we can follow? So there are two types, whether we are following the design or process, or the timing, that is synchronous or asynchronous. Depending upon that, we have some patterns that we can follow and we can proceed with. I hope this is self-explanatory. Do I need to explain? Similar way, if we another system is integrating with Salesforce, so data is sent into the Salesforce. We have this again, synchronous, asynchronous, and process data. Anybody having any questions till here? आई होप कुछ तो समझ में आया होगा. That's all for now.